Donnie Klang is here. Donnie, thank you for making time to be on the Sarah Fraser show. You are a popular guest right now.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. For people who may need a refresh, unbelievable career. I think were you the only person to ever get a solo contract from Making the Band?
I was, yes,
Making
I
the
was.
Band season 4 with Diddy, you were the only person. You kind of thought you were going to get this like not trio, but group.
Yep.
And he's like, no, you need to be solo.
Yeah, it was crazy for me because my whole entire life, my background was singing in groups. I grew up in high school. I had my own boy band. That was like the NSYNC days. So I sang in a group. I loved like harmonies. I loved being in a group. I always felt like that fit me better because I think naturally I'm more of a shy person. I've obviously had to come out of that shell in the past 20 years, but so it always felt right being in a group. I'm like the first verse guy that sings a little softer, and then I could rely on my bandmates to take over some things. And so auditioning for the show, that wasn't even a thought in my head. It was called Making the Band. They've always put bands and groups together. So it was a shock for me too.
Do people tell you over the years you just have that boy band look? Like you really do, like we could plug you into NSYNC or Backstreet
Yeah.
right now. Do people tell you that?
The buzzed hair now doesn't reflect the frosted tips that I had for many years that will burn a lot of those photos.
The frosted tips were so it, weren't they? Like the early aughts, like it was so, yeah, that was it.
It's funny. Lance Bass from NSYNC, his podcast is called Frosted Tips.
How did you, remembering you and obviously researching for this interview, how did you never give up? I mean, you kind of have that like unbelievable career where, I mean, I think it was like, what were you rejected twice from Idol? I mean, you like had all these moments where you like almost made it. Then you kind of would go back to school. You kept going. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Like you must have you must be pretty resilient.
Yeah, for me, it's probably more. I guess maybe the way I grew up. It's like my parents were divorced. I lived in apartments with my mom my whole life. I moved like 20 something times apartment to apartment. So it was almost more like, and especially at that time, my mom was doing title closings, and this was right at that 2007 2008 housing market crash. So she got laid off from her job, and it was like, here I am, I'm going back to school. What am I doing with my life? Music is, I thought I was going to be famous. That was my biggest dream. I put so much time and effort and energy into it. And then I just had went back to college. My mom got laid off, and the audition for Making the Band came up, and I was like, I gotta just try this one more time. So it was, for me, it was almost like life things happening that just forced me to, I don't know, I feel like I almost couldn't stop trying to make it. I had to.
Ah, and you were even like a child, even before that, weren't you kind of like a child actor model? Like you were
I
really
did, yeah.
in business for a
And
long time.
it probably helped thicken the skin too, because that whole world is crazy. It's driving from, so over here, I live in New York. Whether it's from Brooklyn, Long Island, I lived in Brooklyn while I was a kid. I moved out to Long Island when I was 13. You spend all this time, this is way before Zoom auditions existed, driving into the city, paying for tolls, paying for parking, to run upstairs for 5 minutes to audition for this big thing and then just get told no. Like, that definitely thickened the skin up, especially as a kid at a young age, being told no and like getting your hopes up. It's tough. It's a tough business.
So you were so seasoned by the time you went to Idol and like Paula and Simon were like, it's a no. You were like,
Yeah.
well, I've heard that shit before. You were like,
Yeah. And I did. I got the judges no the one time, but then the other times I never even made it past like the casting directors or the producers. So
really?
it's crazy. It's a crazy business.
Yeah. And it was crazy for you too, even after winning Making the Band, right? I mean, just like your story of like, kind of being locked in this deal with Diddy forever and trying to get out of that. And, I mean, these record deals are so crazy.
Yeah, and then for me personally, it's like it was very unique of a situation because I got signed through a television show. So it's like, first of all, even to this day, The Voice American Idol, you have to sign what is going to be your record deal when you are waiting in line with 10,000 people. And if you don't sign those papers, you're not allowed to audition for the show, so you lose the opportunity. So they definitely leverage that power in those audition processes. So I had signed my deal just to audition for the show, not really realizing, you're getting into a very unfavorable deal. And then at that time, like I said, 2007, 2008, this was right on the cusp where the whole entire industry changed. And they from like '07 to probably into the mid 2010s, they were cutting back, laying off employees, shutting New York offices, moving to LA, not being bi-coastal anymore, downsizing. They were trying to figure out the whole streaming world. Everybody was just getting all their stuff on LimeWire and Napster, and the industry was losing billions of dollars. So I got signed at a time where the industry was cutting their costs. So they were putting less into marketing. They were being less risky trying to promote and market their artists. So it was definitely a crazy time in the music business.
I know you and I were talking before we started. It's very similar to radio. I
Yeah.
started years ago in morning radio in Washington,
Yeah.
D.C. with iHeartRadio and then Cumulus and just like I got the tail end. Sounds like you did too of those record deals and like radio. I mean, we just saw so many people getting laid off and they were
Yeah.
just voice tracking everybody so you could, wherever you were in D.C., you were on 40 stations nationwide
Right.
so they could cut people. So you get on to making the band with Diddy. What was that experience like? Like, it sounded like it was pretty traumatic overall.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah. I mean, in hindsight now, I'm very thankful that nothing crazy happened to me personally. But just in general, getting signed and that whole time in my life was amazing. I don't even have that much bad to say about what happened and what I went through. I was able to kind of learn so much from him too. Even just being around Diddy all those years and seeing how he operated, and this probably comes more from my like entrepreneurial spirit, but I was always a sponge in those settings, trying to soak in every possible thing I could, whether I was in a recording studio and I'm working with Timbaland or the biggest people in the business. I'm the guy sitting next to him at the desk trying to see like, oh, what's this guy doing? What buttons are you pressing over here? What are you using? What equipment are you using? I was trying to learn everything. And then being around Diddy, it's like I myself right now, I own one small business and my life is so hectic. My whole entire scheduling, the doing the bookkeeping, the accounting, everything is like insane on top of the work. This man owned a studio also. He owned his own recording studio, but then he was the president of his record label. He had Sean John clothing. He was just putting out Ciroc, vodka. He had a million different facets to his life. And I remember being around him sometimes and he almost felt like a robot kind of like that was on autopilot because he had three back then Blackberries. He had three Blackberries, seven assistants, all these different people coming at him from all angles. And I'm like, how does this guy manage all of this without going crazy? I couldn't even like comprehend because I would even go to speak to him and you just kind of saw like the movie Click. Do you remember the movie Click with Adam Sandler? And he would press fast forward on his life and he would just be on autopilot and not really like taking
Yeah,
in the things happening.
yeah.
That was what it was like sometimes being around him.
Well, I mean, now I guess in hindsight with this trial, it's like he was probably on drugs, don't you think?
Yeah.
Like the entire time, like he was just like on uppers to stay awake and do all these projects.
It's got to be a possibility. I mean, it's that whole world in general is very crazy. I know for me personally, it was like here I was, you're waking up in the hotel 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to go do morning radio interviews and morning TV. And especially when you're on like an active tour or a promo run, your schedule is packed. Then you're traveling to the next place and you're doing afternoon things. Then you're flying somewhere for your show that night. Then you're waking up the next day to do the radio thing. And for the level that I got to, this is like reality TV stars, Jersey Shore type of stuff. Majority of the venues that I was performing in were club venues. And I was there to kind of host and, oh yeah, we want you to perform, but we're also paying you to hang in the VIP and we'll give you bottle service. And it was like everywhere I went, free bottles, free this. I literally was drinking Red Bull vodkas. I don't know how I am still alive. Thank God I didn't do drugs. I never got into
I know,
that.
Donnie, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was very accessible too. Like all of that, it was crazy. Some of those red carpets in LA and Hollywood and the people, it was like there was drugs all over the place. It was insane.
I was going to say, did Diddy ever offer you drugs? I mean, my God, this trial, it's like the guy's like on ketamine all the time and
Yeah.
everything, cocaine. And
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird because I was very close with him and I never saw any of it. I never got to see any of that. I don't know if I'm one of the lucky ones that maybe he protected more. I don't know if it's because I had my mom at the time was very heavily involved and I had brought on one of my best friends I grew up with who is like a foot taller than me and way bigger. He came on the road as security and I mean that definitely helped ground me too through a lot of those years and the traveling and having somebody there that I grew up with. Um, but maybe because I had people that close to me surrounding me all the time. Maybe just there was never an opportunity. So
yeah, I've heard you say like when you were on the show, he would do things like wake you guys up in the middle of the night. You'd have to sing. I mean, then if someone messed up, like you all would have to run, like, run
yeah,
3 miles or something. I mean, in
yeah,
hindsight, do you see those things as like abusive sort of? Like you said, okay, nothing, you never personally experienced him do anything to you, but then when you I don't know. Now having all the experience you have, do you see some of those things as like, wow, I can't believe that production like allowed that to happen?
right. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to judge. It's also like that was a different time in the world, and I think I don't know, maybe it's just our generation. I just feel like we have thicker skin overall, and
Oh, believe me, I grew up in radio. I mean, my
yeah,
co-host like kicked trash cans and smashed
yeah,
pictures and threw keys at us. And like,
yeah, yeah,
I mean, you never thought to like report that,
yeah,
like, oh, okay, well, he's passionate about his job is what everyone
right.
would say.
Yeah, you think about like sororities and fraternities and especially go back 20, 30 years. It's like they had these people jumping off buildings and God only doing only I don't know. Even like I don't know, the Wolf of Wall Street and you look at some of those elements like being down on Wall Street and trying to work your way up, climb your way up, or even law firms, I'm sure. It's like these people put them through the ringer just to give them an opportunity to get a job. Some of them are interns. So I look back at that almost more like boot camp stuff that and I even still implement some of that stuff with some of the artists I work with. It's almost more to me that I don't even look back and think of that as abuse. I almost feel like that kind of sculpted me a bit into who I ended up becoming because yeah, it's like how bad do you want it? I don't want it that bad that I'm gonna do drugs or do anything illegal, but I'm willing to run 5 miles to prove how bad I want something or push myself a little bit out of my comfort zone to, try to chase down my dream. That's kind of how I feel like I look back at those times.
Okay, so you win and he sort of selects you as like you have a solo album. You do a solo album. You and Diddy do a song, a video together. And you said you guys had a a close working relationship. Like when you say that, what did that mean? Like, would he give you advice? Was he writing your songs? Was he like, what was that relationship?
Yeah, it was hit or miss. You know, there was a few times where we I did a show in Miami, and like I said, we were at the level of, doing a lot of club venues. Some of these promoters were very sketchy. It's like even the way we got signed is so untraditional. I got signed to a label. I didn't have a manager yet. I didn't have a road manager. That's why my friend became my security, because I just was like, "Hey Don, do you want to come on a flight with me down to Miami? I have a show next week." It was like the blind leading the blind when I first got into my record deal and traveling. So there was one time, I guess, dealing with an unprofessional club promoter. I got down there and they didn't have the hotel. There was no transportation. They were trying not to pay me. And I was basically stranded, and Diddy set me up with a car to go back to his house that he wasn't even at. And I remember I must have been like 21, 22 years old. I'm in this mansion on Star Island in Miami with chefs making me breakfast in the morning, and I'm like, what is going on in my life right now? So there was kind of like two sides to Diddy that I remember, and there was that one side where he would always like help or reach out, and even like lessons I learned from him. But then there was that other side where he was kind of infamously known as a rough businessman. Everybody's record deals that you get into with him were usually in favor of him. Um, so it's tough. It's kind of like I have these two, almost like two different people in my head that I think back and I remember him as.
I mean, he's obviously in the spotlight so much now. Is there anything about Bad Boy Records or Diddy that you think like people don't know?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, dealing with him, it's so hard right now because until that Cassie video came out last summer, my opinion wasn't really swayed on him yet. I was still more like, let's give this time to play out. Let's see, like, how can this be true? And then when that Cassie video came out, now you're not talking to the version of me that was ever friends with him or signed to him. Now you're talking to the version of me that has two daughters and three sisters. And if that was one of my daughters or sisters, or my wife that I ended up marrying, I can't even imagine Cassie's husband sitting through the trial and listening to statements and the videos, knowing that the jury is seeing these videos, that God only knows what's happening on those videos. That's like, for me now, that father, the girl dad part of me kicked in and is like, that's disgusting. That would be that. First of all, I don't even know what I would do if that happened to one of my daughters or sisters, and like, I don't know, that you would never catch me in that position, no matter how angry I ever got at my girlfriend or wife or spouse. Like, that would never happen. That just would never ever happen.
Yeah. I think that was shocking for everybody.
Yeah,
And clearly, right? I mean, he obviously went to great lengths to keep things very quiet, to pay
yeah,
people off, it seems like. And um, but that was unbelievably shocking to
yeah,
watch for everyone. And I think, hard to come back from. I mean, that was
yeah.
such a violent act. When is the last time you two talked? Like, I mean, from what I understand, it didn't really end well, right? Because you do your record, you had, oh, I think a lot of success. Weren't you all up to like 15 on the Billboard charts when your album came out with Bad Boy? And I mean, you did pretty well, right?
Yeah, I was doing okay. I don't think, and that's probably a whole different conversation, but like creatively, I think I was stifled a little bit. I didn't really get to do the sound that I maybe wanted. I had a producer that I worked with that I loved, that I felt like I had an amazing working sound relationship with, like kind of like Timberland and Justin Timberlake. It was Seven. His name is Seven, and me and him did a lot of stuff, and then there was so much politics involved that a lot of those songs didn't make it on my album.
Ugh.
And then just in general, like I think a lot of the stuff I was working on, I feel like I was more of a like a neo rather than I think they were trying to mold me into another version of Justin Timberlake. So I think just creatively there was a lot of differences. And then the management team that I took on was basically recommended by Diddy. So they were, I don't want to say in his back pocket, but a lot of the things that I would have wanted to fight for weren't fought for because I think people were afraid to say the wrong thing to the big man in charge. So that was probably one rough part of it, but the album did okay. The couple singles
Yeah.
did okay. I think it was the single that made it to 15, but it was again a crazy time in the music business where it was people are getting your songs illegally, so you have to sell physical copies of CDs, but then people are burning their own CDs. So unless you broke through that like Lady Gaga level, there was a couple artists that came out at that time that somehow were able to break through, and if you broke through, you were set. There was like Justin Bieber a couple years right after me,
Yeah, that's right.
probably with the help of YouTube, early YouTube days, but specifically in 2008, I remember Lady Gaga, and it's like, how did she cut through
How
when
did
all of
she?
these labels? Yeah, and it's I think she just attached herself to the right movement at the right time, and she had the right songs at the right time, and you still have to get very lucky. I explain that to a lot of my artists that I work with here. It's like a record label doesn't mean you made it. Like getting signed and even getting one good hit song still doesn't mean you've made it. You have to somehow get a little bit lucky in that big thing to happen at the right time to catapult you to that level of actually making it.
Oh God, yeah. I always think the music business is the hardest
Yeah.
business. The
Yeah.
hardest business to make it in. When you decided you didn't like when it wasn't going well, when you had realized you'd been stifled creatively, obviously management was going to do whatever Diddy wanted. I mean, was it what was that conversation like when you decided you were going to exit with him? Was he aggressive then, or was it like not that emotional?
Yeah, it wasn't like a peak moment. It kind of happened slowly over the course of time. Um, it was basically like at that time there was a term in the business called getting shelved, and it's where you're signed to a label, but the label doesn't activate or green light a marketing budget for your next project.
Yeah.
So it's like here I had my first album out. It didn't recoup the original cost, which that's another conversation to have. There was a lot of spending being done that I think Diddy was getting paid in multiple ways from the same revenue stream, where it was like, okay, I'm signed to Bad Boy Records, but Bad Boy was underneath the Warner Music Group umbrella at that time. So it's like I'm technically signed to Warner. Warner is paying the checks. And then I'm also on a reality show. So I was getting some checks from MTV. But this was one thing that definitely pissed us all off when we found out in the coming years. So Jersey Shore, the cast members got paid minimum wage during the first season, just like we did. I think we were making like $100 a week to be on the show. However, with the success of their show, they renegotiated their contracts and they were making 10 grand an episode during their second season. Then they were making 100 grand an episode during their third season. We got bumped up from like $100 an episode to $200 an episode for our second season. And then I think we filmed 4 seasons, and at one point it was the number one rated show on MTV. And
Wow.
I don't think we ever broke over 400, $500 an episode. And
Oh
then we
my.
found out that Diddy was making like a couple 100,000 an episode. So that was one thing that definitely rubbed us all the wrong way. Um, So that was one thing, but it's also like we had improper representation. We got thrown into this world. We didn't have somebody on our team, any of us. The Danity Kane, Day 26 was the group that formed on my season. We just were all thrown into this, and everybody didn't have the right management at first. So you didn't even know that you could renegotiate terms like that. Um, and then so with my album specifically, it's like here I am, Diddy's featuring on my song. It's like you think you got signed to him, so he's probably just doing that to try to help push his artist because if his artist succeeds, he succeeds. And then you look at the breakdown of the spreadsheet and he got paid, I believe it was like $250,000 for the feature on my song. And it didn't come out of my pocket. I don't owe that money back, but that money is going to get recouped before I would ever make money.
That was
Um,
Take You There, right? That was the
that
song
was for Take You There. Yep.
Take You There. So he's not doing it to like help you out, build your name, build the right. He basically appears in this song probably a day shoot for you or 2 days shoot.
Yeah.
And by the way, he's going to get paid first before you are going to
Yeah.
get paid anything.
Yeah. So as a featured artist, that's just money right off the top. That doesn't even include any like back end
Yeah.
royalties or anything like that. That's just a loophole in the system when you kind of it's called these joint ventures where a label is a sub label underneath a bigger parent company, and the parent company is green lighting these big marketing budgets that the sub label decides how and where it gets spent. So what do? You decide, okay, I'll feature on the song and I'll decide how much I'm even going to make. That was never even negotiated. If this was any other situation, like at that time, if I would have had Ludacris feature on a song, there would have probably been more of a negotiation. Like Ludacris's team would have said, "Oh, he makes 50,000." We would have said, "Oh, we want to give him 30,000," and then you decide how much you're going to pay the feature. How much do you think you're going to get out of it? And you decide and talk through marketing budgets and spend budgets. And so that was never even like negotiated. It was just he got that fee, and I didn't even know about it until I get this spreadsheet that says I need to recoup $2 million to Warner Music Group before I ever make a penny. And I'm not even kidding. That number was $2 million that I
You're
still
on that
technically would
album.
recoup. Yeah. So that was part of the part of the cost. That was just to feature on the song. To feature in the music video, there was another couple $100,000 fee.
How much money do you think you made between 4 seasons of making the band and then your album? I mean, did you make any money?
No, I want to say so. I received a $35,000 sign-on bonus when I got signed after the finale of Making the Band. That was the biggest check I ever received through those years. I also, up until about 5 years ago, was dealing with the IRS because everything was completely mishandled back then. Um, like I said, we were thrown into this without proper representation and guidance. So you receive a check for $35,000 and you think, wow, this is incredible. You don't think, especially without any guidance, I'm technically self employed. This is a check from my employer that doesn't have taxes taken out of it. That is money that I should probably spread out to have available over the course of 1 year. So if you think about it that way, that is actually like a pretty horrible salary that you were given that is kind of disguised in this beautiful, we made it check, $35,000. Here's a nice chunk of money. And then that's it. And then you're supposed to have that money before I was even doing shows and I had other income coming in before any music was out. That money was supposed to stretch me for 6 to 12 months. And then no taxes were taken out on it. So I owed the IRS. That whole thing was mishandled. So I mean,
You're
I
not
want
you're
to I
not
want to
bitter.
say
You're not
probably 100,000, maybe $200,000 max through the course of all of that. It
God, and it was years, years.
was a couple of years worth. Yeah, it was very crazy.
You're not angry at Diddy, Bad Boy, MTV. Are you like, God, it took me so many years to not be bitter at like iHeart for all the
Yeah,
things I went.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely. I mean, even just talking through it with you, it kind of reawakens it all. I had a long time to kind of process everything and just, you know, at that point, I felt like there was nothing I could do to change it. So what's the point of even like, staying pissed off or upset about it? Talking through it again after not having spoken about it in a few years, it definitely reawakens some of those emotions. But yeah, I don't know. I wonder if there's some sort of action that we could take, especially for the MTV stuff, because the music stuff, it kind of is what it is. Labels do that in general. They leverage the power of, we're putting the money up. We're going to take a big percentage from your first albums, even second album. That's like, in order to start generating real money, that's when you're doing massive tours, you're selling a lot of merchandise, you're on your third album, and you were able to renegotiate by that point. That's kind of like an industry standard. But the MTV thing is definitely where that still rubs me the wrong way. To know that we could have been making very good money off of the show and we never even knew. We weren't even given an opportunity.
Have you ever talked to any of the women from Danity Kane? I mean, Aubrey O'Day has been so brave, like everything she's been through with Diddy. I believe another Danity Kane member is like suing him. I
Yeah.
mean, did you have over the years since this has all come out with Diddy, and it's been a couple years now? I mean, have you all, anybody from making the band, gotten together or called each other and talked?
Yeah, I mean, me and the guys have always stayed in touch. We have like a group chat with me, the guys that were in Day 26, and then even some of the guys that were just part of our original season that auditioned. That's like I kind of consider that my college experience because we were basically dormed up together for a couple months and went through those learning experiences. In my head, it almost feels like college to me. The girls, Aubrey specifically, I've always stayed in touch with. We talk, especially since all this has surfaced, probably at least once or twice a month. Um, she's been kind of telling me somehow she even gets like information before it's out. I don't know how, but she's very, very on top of this whole situation because she was, like you said, one of the first people to be vocal about it, even before anybody else was being vocal about it. So we all stay in touch. I personally like being more of an entrepreneurial spirit. I've been trying to work on connecting some dots with Aubrey and the guy Willie from Day 26 specifically to see if there's some sort of docuseries that we could put together that just talks about that time. I know right now it seems like people are obsessed again with the 2000s. That's like a whole Y2K craze going on. So it's like, why not try to capitalize on that and also tell our story and then everything obviously going on with Diddy. It would be a probably inspiring story, especially for up and coming artists that are trying to pursue a career in this business. There's a lot that we could talk about that we went through that I think people would love.
Yes, 100%. I think you have something there. By the way, on a lighter note, fans always wanted to know if you and Aubrey O'Day ever got together. You have a beautiful wife, by the way, and two gorgeous daughters. So you're
Thank you.
married. But I mean,
Yeah,
back in the day, I think we were kind of secretly hoping. Was there ever any romance between you and Aubrey O'Day? Like, you kind of would have been a good-looking couple.
it's funny because so going into it, so we filmed our first season. The guys made it into the group. I got signed solo. Our second season was they're surprising us. the girls of Danny Kane and all of us are moving into a house in Miami together to work on our music. So they introduced us all. The first time we met them was literally on camera. But then when the cameras stopped that night, me and Aubrey were talking and we were like, it just makes sense for us to stage a relationship. And then by doing that, we ended up kind of actually liking each other because now MTV was setting us up to go on these dates and then they're like, "Oh, you guys are gonna kiss." They were really trying to like force it. And then I don't know, there was a very, very brief moment in time where I feel like we ended up developing an actual crush on each other. And it was weird because we were kind of faking, trying to look like we were liking each other at first. But then, so we did that. Then once we got down to Miami, it was like everything just got crazy. And our schedules were insane. They had us working with producers, songwriters, and we barely had time to do anything. And then we flew back to New York for the holidays. Then we fly back and we're just filming these things. So it was almost like we never had an opportunity to really do it. But it was short lived. And we did kiss a couple times. And I remember this is the very awkward part about it. I met my wife 16 years ago, and I met her right after we got back from filming the season in Miami. And then we pretty much started dating almost immediately. And then the episodes aired of what happened when we were in Miami. So that was very awkward for us. And then my wife, Melissa, she came to the live taping of the finale. And Aubrey, of course, had to go up to her and she was like, "Oh my God, we're like sisters because we kissed the same guy." And I'm like, "Oh my God." It was out of control.
Okay, that's a good story. I actually was thinking you met your wife through like she was like an Uber fan of Aubrey O'Day's and then
Yeah,
ended up.
no.
So that's not a bad story. I like that.
Yeah, if anything, it was probably the opposite once those shows aired. It was a little bit awkward.
Oh my God. Do you miss being on TV at all? Do you miss reality TV or you obviously have a great business. I've heard you talk about it. We'll talk about the loft sound, but do you miss
Yeah, but I think like I said, I had a long time to process everything when I was growing up. That was always my biggest dream to make it as a famous singer and everything. And then I don't know, there was a little part of me through those years that I saw a lot of my friends going to college and I visited them. Sometimes I was visiting them because I was doing a show in the area and I would get to kind of see what they were experiencing briefly and then have to fly out and continue my crazy schedule. And it was like there was a little piece of me that felt like I was missing out on just like real life. Um, and then we opened up the loft in 2011 and I basically still get to do what I've always loved to do and I'm doing it behind the scenes and I'm avoiding all of the riffraff and craziness and potential lawsuits that come with being in the crazy music business. So I kind of feel like my life kind of played out the way it was supposed to. And I
uh,
feel it just feels like this was how it was meant to happen.
Oh my God, you've developed some unbelievable artists. We'll talk about. I want to ask you two last questions about Diddy. Are you following this trial at all and has anything surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, the whole entire thing has kind of surprised me, especially having been as close as I said. Like I said, I was at probably every house that he owns. I was in his LA house in the hills. I was in his penthouse in the city multiple times. I was in his house in Miami multiple times. I was at a few parties, especially back then. That was when the white party was the biggest. And being from Long Island, I was at a couple of those white parties in the Hamptons. That was like one of those famous late 2000s things to go to. And I don't know. I never saw anything like what is coming out right now. And so a lot of it is kind of shocking me. It's like, I don't know. There was always kind of rumors back then about him being bisexual. And back then, it was obviously, I guess, I don't know, less well received than it is now. That was like a different time coming out of the 90s.
Well,
So it was,
especially for somebody in rap, right? I mean,
yeah, especially a hip hop artist.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, he and Biggie, and I mean, that would have been so shocking.
yeah,
Okay, you heard the rumors, but he never hit on you. Like, did you ever see?
no.
Yeah,
It was, if anything, it was almost the opposite. It was always like he always had an exotic looking model with him. Whatever event he was showing up to, he had like a girl with him. I don't know if that was, I don't know, part of the facade of just trying to be that person, that role, that mogul, that whatever it is, hip hop artist. That it's like that's how you're supposed to be perceived. But I don't know. It's very mind blowing, and there's a big part of me that's just like, thank God, maybe my career didn't excel even further because who knows, especially being young back then and probably being afraid to say the wrong things or ruffle the wrong feathers. Like, I don't know, maybe I would have been persuaded into having like covered up a crime that I didn't even know was a crime.
yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. Thank God
No,
things kind of went the route they did for me.
you should be very grateful because it seems
Yeah.
sort of like after you kind of parted ways with him and making the band ended there. I mean, that's sort of when he really seems to have gone off the deep end. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah.
got very lucky. You've been in all those homes. I mean, there's so much made of baby oil. Did you ever go in those homes? Like,
It's so weird.
right?
I never saw any baby oil. I'm like, "Hey, what is, it must have been hidden in cabinets or I don't know.
We go into his LA home. There's 500 bottles of baby oil. I'm thinking to myself,
Yeah.
Donnie, if you went in there, was there baby oil everywhere? It's
Yeah. It's
so
just like
funny.
all over the counter. It's like, oh, can I take one of these? Yeah, no, it's very strange. It's very strange for me. The whole entire trial is obviously it's very fit for entertainment television too because of how many facets there are to it. It's like I'm sure there's gonna be movies made about this whole entire thing if there's not already in production.
Hey, look, you're lucky. I mean, look what he did to Kid Cudi. I mean,
Yeah,
not that you and Cassie crossed paths, but obviously this was a person who became more and more unhinged if he didn't get his way. To your point, I don't know. I mean, if you
yeah,
argued with him and gone up against him, what could have
yeah.
happened? Uh,
So me and Cassie did cross paths.
oh,
We
tell us what happened.
So nothing like that, but she was literally like at that time when we were signed, she was Diddy's girlfriend. That's what we knew, and it was like,
Yes.
don't even look at her the wrong way because that's Diddy's girlfriend. That was kind of like the unwritten rule. But I remember
What year was that?
this must have been
They were with each other.
2008. I'll send you like the photos, or I don't even know where they are. I know I have the one photo so she came on a radio promo tour that I was doing in Florida. It was basically like a 2, 3 week starting at the top of Florida, going all the way down and around the coast and stopping at every station and doing a bunch of meet and greets and events and radio interviews and then a bunch of shows at night in different clubs and stuff. So she came on one of my radio tours because it seemed like they were going to start working another single for her, which never happened. She never got to put that song out, which we're now seeing
Yeah, some of the
with,
reasons
with a
why.
lot of
Yeah.
control. Yeah. But he had sent one of his like, Diddy had sent one of his like hand men down there. And I remember me and my best friend that I used to travel with, we get off the plane, we're going in this like Sprinter van and we see the dude and he's like, y'all fellas know why I'm here? And we're like, no, are you the road manager or security for Cassie? And he's like, I'm here to keep an eye on the two of you. And it was like, we thought it was a joke, so we kind of giggled. And he's like, I'm being serious. And we were like, okay. And we went on this whole 2, 3 week thing and we were like afraid to say anything to her. It was like we didn't want to say the wrong thing, but we all got close on that trip. Cassie is such a cool, down to earth human being, and especially back then, she had hit songs on the radio, and she was just so sweet. Like he's just like a person that is just so genuinely nice. That's how she was. She was just such like a nice person. She never, all these radio stations, people were freaking out to see her. She never turned away photos with fans, or she was just so nice. We would go out to restaurants, dinner, people come up, recognize her. She was so sweet to everybody. She was just like a good human being. So
Wow.
it's very sad to see now.
uh Tragic to see what she went
Yeah.
through, but also I think, wow, she is so brave. And I think to myself, okay, well, whatever. I'm like, she got the ultimate fuck you to him, really, because she got his money. She sued him for all the shit he did to her. She got his money, and
Yeah.
then she got to get on the stand under oath and tell
Yeah.
everything he did, which of course is why he paid her to not do.
Yeah.
I thought, good for you. You got the ultimate fuck you to him. I mean, what does Aubrey say? I mean, I think the problem with this trial is a lot of people feel like this guy is obviously a former drug addict, maybe still drug addict, abuser. I mean, narcissist, like all the, absolutely guilty of that. I think people are questioning like the RICO charges, the extortion
Yeah.
charges. I mean,
Right.
does Aubrey have any insight when she talks to you? Like, this is looking like a guilty verdict? I mean, I think people are torn.
So I haven't spoken to her since the trial started, but I remember last summer she knew that there was a gigantic federal investigation going on into it. And that's kind of been one of the things going on in the back of my head. Like the extent of the charges seems crazy. Like he's definitely guilty of a lot of things, but the extent of the charges is crazy. So that's where I'm curious to just see like how the evidence plays out, because I hope they didn't overshoot what he maybe is technically guilty of legally. I'm obviously no lawyer, so I don't know the legalities of like the levels of what's legal and what's illegal, and what constitutes the charges that they have against him. But I feel like there maybe what could have been a different trial that would have been a case closed. These are things that he's definitely guilty of. It seems like that's obvious. So I don't know. But I remember last summer she knew that she even told me that there was the video of Cassie. She was like, they're going to be releasing that soon. And the way it was worded is like there is the obviously the court of law, and then there's the court of public opinion. And they were like, for anybody that's still on the fence about who they think he was, they want to release this video so that they could be ahead of the court of public opinion, so that they could show, no, you maybe don't know this person and who you think he is.
Oh my God. That video was like unfucking believable. I mean, I hope he's found guilty 110%. My fear is like, ugh,
Yeah,
is he found guilty enough? I mean, and then
right.
it's like, I mean, can you ever imagine running into him again? I mean, I'm like
I
hoping
know. No,
for
my God.
life. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for a long, oh, you asked before. I don't think I properly answered the question, but we like loosely stayed in touch over the years. Like I said, there was never that like let me out of my deal, or I'm gonna quit, or I'm gonna whatever go to the media. There was never that moment. It was more of like it just kind of slowly happened, and then I got a letter of release in 2013. So there was never like technically any bad blood, and we loosely stayed in touch. And then I don't know, I don't want to burn any bridges in any business either, especially being involved with developing artists. There was actually a couple artists that we had pitched to his label, or to him, or to A&Rs at his label, or to the parent company above his label. So there was a few times where we had conversations, but nothing crazy. There was a few Merry Christmases, Happy Birthdays that stretched probably to like 2014, 2015, and then it just all kind of fizzled out.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Thankfully, did you ever end up sending any artist? Like, did he sign any artists, or it was just like, hey, listen to this? And
Yeah, and it was the one. So actually, Madison Beer, she was one of the first artists that we worked with, and we were pitching her to labels and to people, but she got picked up so quickly by Justin Bieber and Scooter Braun that people didn't even have a chance to respond to us. That's how fast she got discovered and signed.
Does it surprise you? I mean, Taylor Swift just bought back, I think, her first six
I
albums.
saw that. Yep.
Did Scooter surprise you? I know you met Scooter before anybody even knew Scooter, and
Yeah.
I think he almost managed you. Um,
Yeah.
well, Scoot sounds like he's quite the business person. Like, are you surprised at how he's pretty
I
savage?
I'll be honest about that whole situation, and this is not fact checked, and it's just my opinion. I think Taylor Swift is such a genius at marketing that I think there was maybe a little theatrics to that whole entire dealing of the catalog and fighting over the catalog. Like think about this. If I was Taylor Swift and I'm sitting at a table meeting with like my whole team, and it's like, what can we do to make me the most relevant artist again that I was 4 years ago on the planet? It's like, let's develop a thing where we want to get everybody on my team to stream my songs that came out 10 years ago again for the like it's the first time ever. So we're going to do a re-release, but instead of releasing remastered 2015 2020 versions, we're going to create this whole entire scenario where Scooter Braun outbids me for my own catalog. And did he deserve that? So let's release this whole second batch of the same exact songs and make me the biggest artist. And I don't know. It seems like if there's a case to be made that that was one of the smartest business moves and marketing moves in the history of the music business, that could have been orchestrated.
I know. Would that shock you? I mean, you've been in entertainment a long time. A lot of it is orchestrated.
Ah, totally. My God. I feel like I would almost be surprised if it wasn't orchestrated because I know she's as big as she is. So obviously it's easier for the media to take it and run with it. But it just, I don't know. It feels like there's definitely a possibility that it could have been orchestrated. And now another nice media blitz. She bought her catalog back.
And to your point, she's putting all her albums on her Instagram
Yeah.
re-release. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, nothing would shock. Yeah. Yeah. I know I mean, you talked about the Aubrey O'Day thing, but I'm sure were you ever witness to any other interesting, like, did Diddy ever come to you guys and he's like, okay, we're going to like pretend one of you's been kidnapped to keep this show going? I mean, right?
Yeah. 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 Man, I'm trying to think. Was there anything? Because I remember I had said no to a couple things that I was like, I don't want to do that. Nothing crazy or implicating, but like it might have been more stuff for the TV show. And I think they wanted me to, even though I was dating Melissa at the time, they were still making me look like I was single or I got out of a relationship with Aubrey or whatever it needed to look like for the show, even though it's reality TV. And I think they wanted me to go on like those dating sites and like go on some dates and they wanted it to make it awkward and then they wanted one to make it look like it was working out or something. I don't remember, but I feel like I did not want to do it.
Um, Last couple of questions for you. It's been amazing to hear your story, and I'm sure I mean, are fans reaching out to you? Probably people have been reaching out to you nonstop since this whole thing started a couple years ago.
Yeah, there's been tons of people reaching out. I mean, fans that I haven't spoken to in years, and I was always very down to earth through the whole process. I was always very appreciative of making it to the point that I made it to. So I was always very close with a lot of the fans that I made, especially the ones that were like the diehards that would travel across the country to come to shows and stuff. And a lot of them have been reaching out, a lot of old high school friends, a lot of family members. Like everywhere I go on Easter, it's like, all right, let's talk to the family that I haven't seen in a few weeks, and I already know the first question, and it's like this Diddy stuff, huh? And I'm just like, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. The loft sound is really interesting. You develop artists, but I mean, you also have this social media element to it. Can you tell people what it is? And you're in the New York area. I mean, I kind of want to see if you'll sign me for my TikTok. So you're like doing a lot.
Yeah, so we opened the Loft Sound Studio in Long Island, New York in 2011. We started basically as a studio that was focusing on artist development, and it was pretty much what I went through with my making the band process where it's like, all right, you're doing vocal lessons, you're doing stage performance, basically doing media training, and then obviously you're recording your. We had to grow with social media, and it's like visuals and video just kind of came with the territory. So I very quickly had to learn my way around cameras and video editing. And then we just kind of grew with social media. We had the first couple kids come in, never really did any advertising for our business. We just started working with kids, coaching kids, and starting to put out cover videos on YouTube, which would lead to the next kid. And then the third kid that came to us was Madison Beer. And it was like kind of the reason, especially back then, that we opened was we were like, let's find and help develop the next Justin Bieber. And let's utilize YouTube for the way he utilized it.
Oh yeah.
And this was back before Google owned YouTube. You didn't have to pay for ads to get seen. You could organically blow up.
And you could actually make money on YouTube. Now you make 10 cents.
Yeah,
We have to get like
people were making money off of
YouTube
YouTube. There was
real money.
Yeah, so Madison Beer, for anybody watching, if you don't know who she is, she has blown up over the past decade. She's got like 30, 40 million followers on social media now. She's signed to Sony. She's actually out of her deal with Scooter. She's in a new deal at Sony. She's on a world tour. I think she just got back from. We got to see her last year at Radio City Music Hall, and it was like unbelievable to see like an artist that I coached that I don't know, like would she have made it if we didn't help her? That's the burning question. She might have, but the fact is we did help her. We're still close with her and her family to this day. And to see her in that environment with 5,000 people, it was like surreal, screaming the words to her songs and then remembering a 12-year-old kid that came to us with this dream. So that was very cool for us. Her, the bigger she got, was huge for our studio because our logo, our website, all our social media was all over her stuff. And Justin Bieber was sharing every video that she did. So it was like we were getting free advertisement from Justin Bieber for our services that we offer. It was crazy. So we quickly expanded after about 2 years into our own 2,400 square foot facility. We have multiple studio rooms, lesson rooms. We have a stage room that we do events in, small like EP releases, music video release parties, stuff like that. And then we also have a component to our business called the Pop Star Party, which is probably one of my main endeavors right now because we're in the process of franchising it. It's pretty much the experience of living the dream confined into a 2 hour kid's birthday party, or we even have parties stuff available for adults, and adults seem to love it too. Um, so, like you said, with the pandemic, we kind of we were figuring out ways to pivot. I mean, I spent 4 months with my business partner DJing parties in the front. We called it parties in the front. We took our music equipment out of the studio, put it in the Jeep, took the top off, and we were hosting and DJing these social distancing graduations and birthday parties in the front of people's houses. Then when we finally came back to reopen, we saw this gigantic hole in the market for small venue parties. People wanted to do like big style parties, but in smaller venues with less people because they were afraid to do the
Yeah.
over the top stuff. So the past 4 years, we've just been growing it, trying to figure out ways to make it scalable. Also, I think that's probably one of my faults is I get attached to, I guess, a lot of these things, and it's hard for me to trust giving somebody else the, I guess, job of hosting. I was hosting. I was probably over hosting these little kid parties for a 6, 7 year old, and here I am acting like it's a wedding. And so I was DJing these things. I'm running around hosting it. I'm engineering it. And I finally hit the point like a year and a half ago where I was like, look, if we want to scale this, if I want to be able to spend my weekends with my daughters, we got to figure out ways to train people to actually also run this party. So we figured that out, and it's amazing. It's like these kids and the parents and adult parties, they love the experience. It's super cool. They get to take paparazzi photos on a red carpet, record in a studio, perform on stage. We edit a music video out of all the footage we take from it. Then it finishes with the normal pizza and cake like any other bounce house. But people leave here and it's like, super like just shocked at how cool the experience was. So we started the process of franchising about 6 months ago, and we're hoping to be able to start opening up more locations and selling franchises in about 3 to 6 more months.
You are a true entrepreneur. I mean, I get you. I get you.
Yeah,
Donnie Klang, thank you so much for telling more of your story. I know people have really been curious about you, everybody on Making the Band, that show. And I think you just brought insight into maybe kind of really the how he evolved Diddy. And also, like you said, by the grace of God, you kind of got the best of him before all
yeah.
this happened. So thank you very much.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Thank you for having me here. I don't normally do these. I don't know. I felt like you just seemed like a cool person. So a lot of people I've never even spoken those stories, like running into Cassie and all that type of stuff. So it's very cool, kind of reliving those moments with you.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it. And that makes me really happy. That's the goal of this show is like for people to feel comfortable to tell stories that they've never told. And
Yeah,
but you doing it, I mean, it just I truly feel like it helps somebody else. And I think the good that we're seeing on the internet of like a lot of these toxic men being exposed is like it gets rid of all the stuff that you and I went through, with
yeah,
we're
yeah,
like we were woken up in the middle of the night and like told to run or like you had to
yeah,
save, like had keys thrown at us or try and
yeah,
I'm with you. Like in 2010, I just thought that was
yeah,
normal, like a
yeah,
normal work environment. I didn't
yeah,
realize like that's actually really fucked up.
yeah, yeah, totally.
And weird
Yep.
that that Diddy hired this bodyguard basically to spy on Cassie. I mean, to babysit her. I mean,
Yeah,
how crazy and controlling is that really in
yeah,
hindsight?
yeah. In hindsight, it's crazy because at the time didn't think twice about it. I'm like, okay, yeah,
Yeah, we were like, oh, this seems normal. And then
yeah,
all the while he was really just keeping track of every little thing she did and watching you. And I mean, that's really fucked up.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy.
Donnie, thank you so much. And
Yeah,
where
of
can
course.
people, you're on social media. Where can people find you? Where do you, and of course, the Loft Sound. You have a great website.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, it's at Donnie Klang, DonnieKlang. Sure, probably people will see this just from us sharing it together too. So, and then if they want to follow the journey of the Loft Sound Studio and the Pop Star Party, go on thepopstarparty.com or the loftsoundstudio.com. It has all our information. If anybody watching this loves music and wants to open up a party venue
Uh,
soon,
yeah.
they'll be available in about 6 months.
Love, Donnie, thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Thank you.